Good afternoon, Year 12. Thank you for tuning in and watching the next instalment of your fitness training and programming unit. Now we're looking at different training methods, how they link to specific components of fitness, and how athletes can develop and train these to be better, stronger, fitter over time. Now some of these you'll know, they'll be quite obvious to you, you'd have learned a lot about them in Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4, but some of these methods and how they can be tailored to the athlete can be new to you. Now the first thing I'm going to need you to do is just download this Word document. I've put it as an attachment on the go for schools. Let me know if you've got any issues, but if you get a copy of this, you can pause the video as we go. I just need you to fill in elements of this as you go about what components it benefits, but also a description of how it works, how an athlete might develop it, what's good about it, what's not so good about it. Okay. So first off, we're looking at speed training. Now speed is obviously how quick, how fast you can move. But there's an element of strength there as well. You have to be able to contract that muscle in relatively quickly. Now we're looking at three different types of speed. Acceleration, that's from stationary to top speed. And what an athlete is looking to do is reduce the time it takes them to get up to top speed. So if we put that into a game context, you're being marked within a team game. You need to be able to get from stationary or very, very slow, like a little walking pace, up to top speed quicker than your opponent. It's marginal gains. It's only a little bit over your opponent, but that little bit of extra time to catch the ball, to collect the ball, to pass it, do whatever, will make you better. So athletes will look at acceleration speed training. The next one is pure speed, and that is purely simply is just how quick that athlete can go. So that's another speed training they'll do. And the last one is speed endurance. So if we look at someone like perhaps a rugby player, if they intercept the ball, they break the defensive line, they might have to sprint 70 or 80 metres to get to that try line. You think they've already been moving around the pitch, they've been making tackles, they've been tackled, etc. They're going to be tired. So having good speed endurance would mean they're able to maintain that all the way to the try line. So we see three methods here that people could use to develop speed training. So that very top one is what we call parachute training. Okay, obvious why, it's got a parachute. The smaller the parachute, just a little bit of wind resistance, you can get them much, much bigger. You get a lot more resistance. Now the idea is that the more resistance that athlete gets, it means the muscles have to work a lot harder. Then doing that over time, increasing the reps, the sets, the distance, they're sprinting, increasing the size of the parachute, those kind of aggressive methods, the muscles will respond by getting bigger and stronger. Now it's the exact same principle with that second picture, that resistance band. By having someone resisting you, you've got to work a lot harder to pump the muscles, to get them contracting really quickly. And over time, again, reps, sets, distances being ran, etc., you can increase the size, the strength of those muscles. You've got a fast contraction to be quicker, greater speed. And then just at the bottom there, we've got what we call a prowler sled. And the athlete just loads it up with the Olympic plates, gets in that dry position, works the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the glutes, the gastrocnemius muscles to pump. They will develop over time. And quite simply, you can do longer distances with that. You can do it faster, but you can see she's loaded Olympic plates on there. You can just add more weight over time as your progressive method. So that is speed training. Very much the same principle, developing of speed but no equipment. So we've got hill sprint. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It's sprinting up a hill. Because going uphill is a lot harder, it works that quadricep muscle a lot more than running flat. Therefore, it will develop bigger and stronger and respond as a better muscle for developing acceleration, but also pure speed. Now, it's very, very quick to change because this chap here is running up a short hill. You can just make the hills, or find a hill that's longer or steeper to make it harder. Now, naturally, that's going to build up, these ones and the previous ones are all going to build up a lot of lactic acid. They're really going to work that anaerobic level. Therefore, the athlete is going to become accustomed and used to having lactic acid in the body, so their body can then start to withstand more lactic acid for longer periods of time. So you can train the body to be more adapted to working under the stress of lactic acid for longer periods of time. And that's important for lots of team game athletes where they might be doing a hard sprint, a little recovery, hard sprint. so they can develop that over time. Circuit training, you'd all be used to doing circuit training. I'm sure we've done lots of it in the past. And circuit training, a real good benefit of it is you can target muscular strength. You can also target endurance within that. It's dead cheap because you don't actually need any equipment. You can use equipment, you don't have to. This is what makes it really beneficial to people like in the military, because they can do pull-ups, press-ups, sit-ups. That is strength they are working on. But if you don't let them have a lot of rest and you put in, like on this one for the Navy SEALs, lots of high knees or short sprints or jogging or something, it's also lots and lots of muscle groups all at one time. Therefore, the demand for oxygen is going to go up and up and up. So it's also working the cardiorespiratory or the aerobic system. So you can get really fit, strong, good aerobic development through circuit training. Hence why it's a big one with the military, because it's dead cheap. You can get hundreds of people all doing the same stuff at the same time. It can be tailored, obviously. You can put dumbbells in and do some other things. You can take running out and make it more of a strength program. You can put more stretching elements in it and make it more of a sort of yoga Pilates or flexibility development one. So it's easily to tailor it to the requirements of the athlete. Now, free weights. We're all used to free weights. You would have used these in the past. So we've got dumbbells. That's what the ladies use in the middle. Short weights. Barbells. That's not pictured, but it's just a dumbbell that's slightly longer. We've got kettlebells. Now, that's a block of steel or iron with a handle on it. That's the top right-hand corner picture. And the bottom right-hand corner, we've got the Olympic bar and plates. Now, depending on how heavy the athlete makes these weights and what they do with them, it can develop power, strength, or endurance. So if we take, for example, the lady in the middle there, now if she chose a sort of a moderate heavy weight, something maybe in a region of about sort of 60-65% of her 1 rep max, and then look to do sort of 10 to 12 reps, that is going to be more of a strength development. If she was to put a barbell across her shoulders, and it's a lightweight, maybe about 35-40% of her 1 rep max, and then did squats, if she was able to do more than 25 squats with that lightweight, that is going to develop the muscle for more of an endurance. Now, power is about, it's a bit similar to the speed, it's about movement quickly. Okay, you can't develop power particularly slowly. So you need to do fast, rapid movements. So if we look at the picture in the bottom right-hand corner, that's taken from a CrossFit training. They do lots of power and endurance events. That is a power move he's doing, the clean, jerk and press. So it's all lots of movements. If you look at that second picture, it looks like he's driving up off the floor, and that's because he's using his quadriceps and his shoulders, his deltoid muscles, to drive that up and off the floor at high speed. So it's development of power. It will be a particularly heavy weight for that athlete. He's then catching it across his shoulders, using those quadriceps again. He's going to drive upwards and use that for momentum and speed from his quadriceps to then push it above his head. And that would be an all-one movement. Lots of muscle groups, but the muscle contractions, those concentric, the shortening of the muscle, those concentric contractions are going to be rapid. Okay, so that can be tailored to the athlete. Now, a negative of these, that if they're not used properly, there is a bit more of a chance to cause injury over something like circuit training, because that weight, if it's too heavy, if the technique's not quite right, or if there's an imbalance in the muscles, remembering that muscles work in pairs, if there's things like an imbalance between the two muscles, you are more prone to an injury. Which is why resistance machines can be beneficial to people that aren't used to strength training, or are perhaps a bit more prone to an injury. So these are plate loaded or pin loaded machines. So the pin ones are there, you just put a pin out, whack it in the weight you need, or you can get machines where you put Olympic plates on them. Now, it's quite easy to lift quite heavy weights safer than if you were to do them as free weights, like on the last slide. But it is limited on the amount of movement or the amount of muscles that are recruited. So if we take, for example, this chap who's doing the chest press, pectorals, the chest muscle are going to work, and also those triceps for the extension at the elbow. So those will work. Whereas if you did it as a free weight, you're probably laying back on the bench and using the pectoral muscles to do a bench press. You're more likely with free weights to get things like the deltoids involved, the abs involved, because the body is having to stabilise. The shoulder will need to stabilise that joint whilst you do the movement. So you get more muscles recruited within free weights than you do within resistance machines. But resistance machines on the whole are going to be safer if you're a novice to this. Now plyometrics is a fantastic form of training. It is about developing explosive strength or power and being able to use that within the sport. So if we take, for example, NBA players, it used to be, back in the day, that an athlete, a basketball player, would have to be around 6'4" or above to have any chance of a slam dunk. Because of plyometric training, they are able to use those muscles and explode a lot higher, jump a lot higher than back in the day when they weren't doing plyometrics. So you're now getting athletes like Steph Curry, 6'1", he can slam dunk, but that was it used to be 6'4" and above only. Now that's come about because of plyometrics training. So the chap, top right hand corner, what he's doing is a set of box jumps. You can see starting with the lowest one first, so he's fatiguing the muscle ever so slightly with the small box, jumping off it. We'll go to the next box and off it, and he's going for that third box. So he's fatigued the muscles a little bit with explosive jumps on those early ones. And the fourth one, it's the highest one. So it is going to really be demanding within the muscles, really working hard to jump up in that height. So that he'll do that, he'll walk round to the start, he'll probably do a second set, maybe a third set, then a rest. His muscles will be tired, there'll be a little bit of ache there because they're exploding. It's a mass power type of training, and over time, increasing the heights, increasing the reps, the sets, he will develop his muscles for jumping higher. Now, it's not just for legs. It's very common, people think, with plyometrics, it's just the jumping, the bounding for development of leg power, plyometric and strength, but it's not. If we look at the middle picture at the bottom there, you can do plyometrics with the chest, so you can do a clapping press up. Those are very difficult. Obviously the risk of injury comes with that as well. This chap is using a medicine ball. It's the same position as a press up. He's going to explode those arms up, and the chap above catches it, and then he'll just bring it back down to it. So he's using those same muscles, rapid contraction of the pectorals and the tricep to explode that ball up. Again, very easy to adapt this and make it progressive. Increase the distance they have to throw it up to. Get a bigger box, hold the hands higher, a higher weight, more reps, more sets. Now I just threw in this picture on the left, that is Anthony Joshua, world champion boxer. He does lots of plyometric training. He has to have those muscles explode into action and use a lot of force in one go. So there he's using a slam ball, he's taking it up above his head and he's slamming it back down. That uses a lot of shoulder, a lot of the lat muscles and some of the chest as well. And if he's training that plyometric, slamming that in the ground, picking it back up quickly, slamming it back down, that can then be transferred over into sort of a big, powerful punch within boxing. Okay, so FARTLEK, it's a very, very silly name, but I'm sure you've come across it before. It's a Swedish word meaning speed play. Now, whilst it is about different speeds, it can also be different terrains. And I'll talk about that a bit more in a second. Now, it is a development of both aerobic and anaerobic, depending on what speed they're going at, but also what terrain they're running on. And it's ideal for endurance and speed athletes. Top-level athletes that play football, basketball, netball, etc., they will do lots of FARTLEK training because it is relevant to a game. It is speed, so there'll be an element of walk, there'll be an element of sprint, a jog, three-quarter pace, a lower pace, and it is changing the paces because that transfers over to the game they play. A footballer might be walking to get into position, then it's a hard sprint to get past the defender, then it's a jog to take up a new position, and that is why. But you can also use different terrains. So it could be a bit of road running flat, that's very easy, and then you can dip off and go and hit some sand, a beach, a sandy dune like the chaps are on the right there. Running in sand is incredibly hard, there's not a lot of friction, your feet will slip and slide, it makes the muscles work a lot harder. So the heart rate will go up and up and up when you start running on the sand, possibly getting into that anaerobic section, you come off the sand, start running back on the road. depending on where you live, obviously. And then that can bring it back down to their aerobic. So the athlete can then dip between aerobic, anaerobic, aerobic, anaerobic, and peak in and out of those. Now, around in Suffolk, we don't have a lot of sand, but it might be that if you do have hills, there are sort of uphill parts of road running, etc., you can do a flat and uphill, around the corner with a flat and downhill, and that is different elevations. That is also FARTLEK. So you've got a jog, a sprint up a hill, a light jog, and then maybe a triple down the road. So like I say, ideal for endurance and speed, but excellent for high-level athletes. Now, interval, definitely come across this before. It's a period of high intensity work followed by recovery. So the picture at the bottom there is of a basketballer. They do something called suicides. And all it means is they'll start on the baseline, they sprint to the 3-point line and back out. They'll sprint up to the halfway and back, etc. And you can see the diagram on the bottom right. Those are the sprints they'll do in what order. So sprint and back, sprint and back, sprint and back. And then there's an element of rest between that, and it gets them used to the distances they have to run within their sport. That basketball court, it's getting them used to what they're likely to run, short elements of recovery within that, because that's what they'd get in the game. Same as in netball, you'd be able to do a sprint to the first third line, and then maybe walk back. Sprint to the second third line, and then back, and then sprint to the last line, and then walk it back for recovery. Same as in football, they'll do it from the goal line to the edge of the penalty box, walk it back to the halfway line, walk it back to the other penalty box, walk it back, because those are the distances you have to run. Now again, you can tweak the reps, the sets, the distances, and reduce the recovery time, and that will all make it progressively harder. Continuous is a very, very simple form of training. It's about just keeping your heart rate a nice 70 to 80% of your maximum. That is your aerobic training zone. Just below that is still a good zone, but that's more the fat burning zone. You just nudge it a little bit higher into that between the 70 and 80%. That is the aerobic zone. That is the optimum level of training for that athlete. Now, it's maintaining a steady pace. So that, therefore, something like a heart rate monitor is perfect, because you can just adjust your pace ever so slightly, depending on where it is within that 70 to 80%. So all of you are sort of 17, 18, so your maximum is about 202, 203, your maximum heart rate. So 70% of that is, you're looking at about 140, 141, up to 80%, about 160, 161 of your max. So you would need to keep it within that state for an extended period of time. Now, naturally, as you get fitter, it is harder to get your heart rate in that level, because your heart is getting bigger and stronger. If you remember that from our anatomy and physiology, the chamber, particularly the left ventricle, is getting bigger, so it can pump out more blood per beat. That's the stroke volume. So therefore, it doesn't have to beat as often. So that's why fitter athlete has a lower heart rate. So by doing continuous training, you could run over a longer distance each time. That's a really easy and a very good progressive method, but it might be a little bit harder over a longer period of time to get your heart rate between that 70 and 80, because you are getting fitter. So it might be a case of having to run just a fraction faster, just a bit more of a pace. Now, if we look at core stability, a lot of people will say when you talk about the core, oh yeah, it's your ab muscles, your six-pack. Well, first of all, it's not just the abdominals, and it's not a six-pack. So if we look at the picture of the muscles at the top right, if we look at the left one, which is the anterior, that front view, it's actually an 8-pack. Okay, so it's these two here, 4, 6, and these extended ones here. So it isn't actually a 6-pack, it is actually an 8-pack. But it's quite often, we forget about that bottom one, because it's very hard to train, and it often gets left behind a big lump of fat. But core stability also involves these side muscles, which are called the obliques, and these back muscles down here, which are the erector spine, which is what it says. It is about erecting the spine and bringing it back. So if you think about the abdominals, curl you over and bring you closer to your knees. The erector spine brings you back the other way. So it's those working in antagonistic pairs that we looked at quite a while ago. Now, I've put in there in capitals, sit-ups are an appalling exercise. They are an appalling exercise. They should be banned. And that's because, first off, they'll only work the top 4 of your abs. They won't work really the bottom 4, bottom 2 pairs, bottom 4 parts of the muscles of those abs. It's only really the top ones. It won't work the obliques. It won't work the erector at the back. And depending on the hand position stuff, it can be really poor for the spine and particularly the neck as people start to wrench up. So I put a set of pictures down the bottom. These are better core ones because they will work all 4 pairs of the ab muscles. They'll also work the obliques and those erectors at the back. So we have an ab roller in school, so we'll get to have a go at that once we're back. But something like the bird dog, that very middle one, once you get through a few reps of that, swapping over the left hand with the right foot onto the other side and mixing up, you'll start to feel that in the front and the back. Something like the oblique twist on the very right there is a very good one, obviously for working the obliques, and it's important that you work all 4 of those muscles, the 3 muscles, the abs, the obliques and the erector spine. Okay, so we're just on the home stretch now with the different forms of stretching. So the first one is static, and this is just about holding the muscle in an elongated position for an extended period of time. So it's about lengthening the muscle, making it as eccentric as possible, so as long as possible. So remember that term, eccentric. If you are warming up, you're likely to have done a little bit of jogging and movement just to get the blood flowing and just to make the muscle a little bit warmer before you stretch it. Stretching a cold muscle isn't effective. You need to make it warm. So you then hold it as a warm-up for about 8 to 10 seconds. If you are cooling down, you are likely to do 15 seconds or more. This is because the muscle has gone through a period of exercise. It's likely to have those micro tears and swelling as a consequence of that, and therefore you need to stretch it out to try and alleviate any swelling that's in there, any muscular ache that you might experience the next day. It will alleviate some of that by doing long stretches, really lengthen out that muscle. So there's a set of pictures. You would just hold those in that set position. You've come across these before, you've seen athletes do that. These are dynamic, so these are stretches, but they're obviously moving stretches. They should really only be performed after doing some static stretches because there is a bit more of an element of risk with those. So if you look at the top left hand picture there, that swing, that is a really good one for stretching out the quadricep and the hamstring. If you haven't already stretched the hamstring, you are a little bit more prone to tweaking it or hurting it, which obviously you don't want to do. So a bit of static stretching and then onto the dynamics. Okay. Now, we're down to our last one now. This is likely to be very new to you. It's called proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, or PNF for short. It's an advanced form of flexibility, and it does require a partner or a trainer with you. You need to be very careful doing these because the risk of injury is a little bit higher than the other 2 forms of stretching, but the benefits are better than the other 2 forms of stretching. So depending on what sport you're watching, if you watch very carefully with athletes and they come out to warm up, it's quite often they'll do that element of jogging. You'll see them going through a few static stretches which suit them, possibly partner up and do some dynamic stretches like footballers who do the leg swings, etc. But then you will see some athletes, those that may be coming back from an injury or maybe a bit more prone to it or want to make sure they're completely loose, will do some PNF stretching. So if you look at the picture on the right, the lady laying down, the green top, is the one that is obviously having a hamstring stretched. Now the idea is the partner, make sure the knee's straight, but don't force it. It just goes on there to gently remind that you need to keep that leg straight. As soon as she bends that knee, the tension will come out of the hamstring, so it won't be effective. The partner has got their top right hand against the foot. Now that's really important. The athlete that wants to be stretched, they get that leg in a position which you'll feel the hamstring, not in pain, but you can feel it as being lengthened, as eccentric, as comfortably possible. Now for a period of 10 seconds, that athlete is then going to push their foot into their partner's hand. The idea is that the partner needs to resist that so it stays where it is, but the hamstring is working incredibly hard but isometrically. So it's not changing length and the leg isn't moving, but the hamstring is contracting isometrically, sustaining in that place for 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, the athlete being stretched relaxes, and their partner is then able just to push that foot a little bit further round towards their face. Not a lot more, you're talking about a few centimetres, but it's going to benefit them. You hold it in that new position where they're comfortable, keep it there for a little while, then it'll be another isometric contraction into that hand, working it really hard, 10 seconds, and then they'll relax, and then the partner can then just push it a little bit more. It's important to then do both sides. You can do other ones of the body. You can do a shoulder one, you can do a chest one, you can do a back one. There are lots of P&F stretches, but you do need a partner and you do need to be very careful with these. But the benefits, the flexibility that athlete will get outperforms the static and the dynamic. Okay, so hopefully that was all okay. If you've got any questions, obviously email me. But if you could complete that attached sheet on the training methods and be descriptive, find pictures, find examples, and then fill it in as you go. I would like it if you don't. Once you've done that, we'll hopefully be back in school and safe to do some exercise. We'll be able to look at these and see how the body responds to them. And then next week we're going to be looking specifically at different forms of weight training, different protocols we can use for that. So this sheet is really important. You will need that for your assignments as they come up. And then next week's is the second part of this. Please email me if you've got any issues. I do hope you're all safe and well. I don't hear from a lot of you. So please get in contact, even if it's just a like the email or just a thumbs up or something. And take care of yourselves, and I will see you soon.